I want to give you a quick tour of the SD90. I'm going to start up in the upper left-hand corner. You have player 1 and 2. Player 1 is for if you have WAV files, MP3 files, karaoke files, that type of thing. And the volume for that player 1 is controlled here with this slider. Okay. Player 2 is basically referring to your launch, not your but your style. This is the volume for your volume for your styles. Okay. While we're in this particular section right here, this is the volume for your drums, for your styles, bass, your chords, or your orchestration, guitar, strings, whatever. And wave lower is something that involves the chords on your accordion, and I'll show you in a second. I'll follow up with that. Jukebox, don't pay attention. X-fade, not for now. Lead mute, not for now. Lyrics has to do with playing MIDI files. Search later on for finding files in the folder. GM is your overall tracks and things for your MIDI files. Pianist is, I believe, when you turn the keyboard into a full piano rather than having a split. Lowest manual is your bass. So instead of having the SD90, play the bass, which is preferable because you actually have a bass player sound with bass riffs. You're actually, if you have the light on, that means your bass is being played on the left hand. And even if you do well on the bass on the left hand, it's not as good as the SD90. Split, don't worry about it. Filters. DSP is just the equalizer for the whole unit. If you ever get later on to have to worry about that, but for right now, just to know it's there. Drum set. Record is if you're going to record something. SD90, we've covered volumes. This is a big button right here. In functionality, this is your exit button and gets you out of your screens. It's like the backup. Your save, when you save your work. Media is like, you can think of that as like you're hooking to the computer, showing what drives are on the SD90. In my particular case, I have my main internal drive that the unit came with. I have a second internal drive that I installed myself for about $100. Now they're 256 gigabytes for $100. And that's solid state. That's a second drive. And I have a SanDisk, an inexpensive from Amazon, that I have loads of just MIDI files and such. Still in media, if you want to connect to a computer and actually see the internal drives on this, you want to move files back and forth, you hit PC Connect. Disk Edit is for changing, renaming a file, for example, or moving a file or deleting a file. Info just gives you the info of the machine, how much space you have, that type of thing. Refresh, don't worry about it. I'm going to hit the exit button, so I'm going to get out. To the right of the media button is the menu button, and that's showing the different parameters or fields. Just introducing you to that now. If you want to find out what version up here that says preferences, what version is your firmware. Mine is release 2.1.0, which is the most updated one. Today's January 10th, 2023. And you have a setup for different things there. Okay. This is your enter key, or your it says page on there, but let's say you wanted to select something on the screen where the yellow is. You press the enter and it selects that. You can also do it with your finger because this is a touch screen. Okay. Moving to the right, this is an important button. This is your registration button. This is how you access your registrations. Okay. If you want to save to a registration, let's say you're in a style and you've tweaked your style, now you want to save it, you have to have that light on. Okay, now it's in the registration mode. All right. Launchpad, don't worry about it. Voice, don't worry. Style, when you press when the style light isn't lit and the registration light isn't lit, you're in player, then it converts to player one. And this is like the internal workings of what's in the drive. So I can go down here, for example, and I'm going to hit enter. And you see registrations. I have 4 banks. And again, you're going to use the wheel to select whatever bank you want. In this case, I'm going to select bank 1, hit enter. And these are all my beats. These are all my styles. And I have them all in bank 1. So you can see I've got a lot. And this is good if you want to find one of your styles because they're not in alphabetical order, except in this mode right here. Okay, so we're going to get out of that. I'm going to go back to style. So to change this from player 1 back to the home page or the first page, you just press style, and that'll bring you back to styles. So you got styles on this side. Well, not on this side, but you have styles, and then you have the other wave files and type of thing. Okay. This is for transposing. If you want to transpose the whole key of everything, including your MP player or all that, this is where you do that. This is transpose up here. This is octave. This is very useful. For example, if you're playing a piano voice, you might be octave 0. It's -1, 0, and +1. So let's say a piano voice is 0. When you move to jazz guitar, you might move it up. It might sound better on a +1 octave. So that's going to be useful. Your voice list is like a condensed version of your favorite voices. Instead of going here, your voices, piano, violin, organ, those type of things, they're all listed, and then you have to go into a subcategory to see what exactly they are. You could take the top 10 or 2010, I forget how many it is, and put them in your voice list, just an easier way. Keyboard control, don't worry about harmony. It's going to be harmonizing your keyboard, not your voice. Talk is, I took off the reverb and all that. So that's with reverb, which I shouldn't have had on, but I did. But that's a good example of why you don't want the reverb. These sliders on your lower right, this one is for your right hand, your keyboard side. I highly recommend you get a generic foot pedal. You're going to plug it in the back panel. Over here, it's going to say volume, 1/4-inch jack port. And you're going to have a generic, I think they're like $35 or something on Amazon. I can send you a link. But you're going to control the volume with that. Okay. This is your second instrument. So you can have a piano like here, and then you can have a violin or string playing with the piano together. And this is your volume for that second instrument. Volume for your microphone. This is your vocalizer. So when you want, if your vocalizer is on, I mean internally on, and you want to actually hear your vocals, you just slide this up and the vocals will come in. What I do is I have a foot pedal and it turns that off and on. It doesn't actually turn, it turns the internal vocalizer on and off. Okay, we talked about the master volume. We want to start, if we didn't, you want to start with the volume almost to the top. That's your beginning point. Okay, down here on this bottom row, over here are your intros and endings. This is intro and ending 1. So if you hit it the first time, it starts the song. You hit it the second time while the song is playing, it will play the most basic intro. The second intro is a little more involved, and the third one is more complicated. These are your rangers. This is the orchestration sounds for every particular song. So A is your most basic. less drums, less guitars, and then as you move up, it becomes more involved with more instrumentation. This is a very cool unit because while you're playing, you can put in fills. A drum. These are drum fills. Okay, so when you hit this, it's going to, do something like that. This is your break. I put the little red thing on there. You're not going to have it on yours, but I wanted to see it because all these buttons. Your break. So you're going to hear a break in the song. For certain songs, that's good. This is your start button. So if you have this pressed, you can start that particular style when you hit the left bass chord button. The instrument will start rather than having to hit this start button. So sometimes I have this programmed that it's going to start with the registration. With the intro. And so I just hit my left hand, the intro starts, and I'm all set. But normally you don't need to have that. The K stop is if you take your finger off the chord button on your bass, this will stop. I've rarely, if ever, used that. Pause is simply for playing MIDI files or WAV files. If you're playing them and you want to pause at a certain point in that MIDI file or whatever, you press the pause and it'll stop it. Rather than if you stop it this way, it's going to go back to the beginning. This is a very important button to have on. This is your whole button, so you only hit your chord button for a second, and then the chords, the orchestration keeps playing. If you don't have that on, then you have to hold your finger on the bass button, on the chord bass button. So C major, C minor, C seventh, whatever, you got to hold your finger there. And it's not necessary, just keep that on all the time. Your tempos for your styles, this is how you control them here. This means that you have your second instrumentation on. Normally I don't have that on. This means your microphone, internal microphone settings are all on, and this means that I have my accordion plugged into the back over here on this side. Behind here on the panel, there's a 1/4-inch jack I think it's called input. And so my accordion is there, but this does not control the volume of the accordion plugged into the back, which is, kind of unusual. And this is fade. If you wanted to fade out a song, which I never do, you can hit that and the songs fade out. So that's the overview of the SD90, and I'll try to show you some more in the next video. Thanks for watching.